what would be like one tip you'd give to some of these people that are maybe trying to jump into the sport or maybe trying to jump into a car to learn how to drift?
The space to drift, like safe places to drift and people to like teach you is not hard to find. Now it's just about like jumping over that little bit of like pride or obsessiveness of like wanting to have like a cool car out the gate and like getting into something and just drifting it. Get in the car, put a seat coils in it, make sure everything works and it's not going to fall apart, and just drift it. Sim. If you want to bridge the gap, try to drift on a Seto.
Dude, I feel like that's like God's green gift to the Midwest car enthusiasts are sim rigs, because when it snows for 6 months out of the year.
Yeah. There's so many drift events now. That's one big thing is when I started drifting, there was only US Air. There was only an event once a month. You had to register for the event within 5 minutes or else it was sold out and you didn't get to drift.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MartiniWorks Podcast. We have a special guest with us today. Who are you?
My name is Cory Talaska.
And he is a professional race car driver. You get to say that, right?
Yeah, I just walk around literally telling everyone, like, hey, I'm a professional. You know that meme where you're standing in the corner, like they don't know?
Yeah, they don't know that I'm a professional race car driver.
Yeah. I like go to parties and stuff and stand in the corner like they don't know,
That's awesome. Well, hey, if you guys are watching, thank you so much for watching another episode or listening into another episode of MartiniWorks Podcast. We're coming up with like episode 40 almost now, right?
It's getting there.
It's getting up there. Season 17, episode 36. Anyway, we're super happy that you guys are here. If you are looking to buy parts, you can mod your car at MartiniWorks.com. Please don't forget to drop a comment as we go through the segments, because Cory Talaska and us, we're going to talk a little bit about the drifting season, how it went, a little bit about him, like what he does, and then, I don't know, we'll probably hit it up with some breaking news at the end of the segment, see what your thoughts are on this new segment that I made randomly, and I just really enjoy saying breaking news and then fixing random topics on Reddit. So let's get into it. Cory, who are you? What do you do? What do you drive? How does it go?
Well, I am a Formula Drift ProSpec driver. This is my third year. It's been a pretty wild 3 years. I have, from the start of my drifting career and now, drive a BMW E36 with a 2J in it.
Nice.
Makes like 800 horsepower. Thing rips.
Nice.
2J the world for sure. And just have a lot of fun with the car. I feel super comfortable in it.
I literally just spilled coffee all over my pants.
Hell yeah, we're off to a flying start.
You are my sunshine cup, and I'm big pissed at this thing now. Anyway,
it's raining.
E36 chassis, I've heard from a few FD drivers, is like one of the best chassis to kind of slide around. Is that true? Like, why do you like the platform so much?
The platform is extremely good from a stock all the way up to a pro. So I feel like there's a lot of continuity, and it's a lot of just how the suspension base is created. Like the rear, it's a trailing arm setup. So you can create a lot of mechanical grip and all this stuff when directly comparing to like a 240 and stuff like that. It just feels good right out the box.
Okay. What does mechanical grip mean?
Mechanical grip is it's grip created by like the geometry of the suspension of the car, not based off of like the compression of the suspension or like lowering air pressure. So like you can have a lot of grip in the car and still run 50 PSI or still run super wide wheels and tires and stuff like that.
Interesting. It's just like another layer of shit that I didn't know that I would have to deal with if I were to build a bigger horsepower car.
Yeah, it's a lot. If you pay attention to, like if you just watch FD and like scan through and you watch all these 240s, you see them just squat down like crazy. And that's, they're creating their grip out of compression and like using low air pressure and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, I run like 20 to 30 PSI in my rear tires. And you'll actually see when I like lurch on people, my car like stands up because it's the trailing arm like digging into the ground.
Oh.
So we create grip in a totally different, not totally different, but a little bit, we use different tools.
Dude, that reminds me of, we were at St. Louis, you were there, and watching, I think it was James Dean, his car, the RTR cars, coming around that last zone. And I swear to God, if they could have had negative tire pressure, they would have had negative tire.
They're running like flats out there.
It was if you got a shot, if you guys watch St. Louis, go back, you can see some of the highlight clips. Like if you see any of the shots that people took like from the high rise like stands or even above the building, you'd see these wheels and you didn't see the tire. It just looked like it was a shadow of the wheel because they ran no tire pressure, like zero. I'm like, how is that even legal? It doesn't even seem like it's real. So you think like, I mean, a lot of times people talk about best platforms to jump into if you're starting to drift. You think the E36 is a solid pick?
Yeah, E36, E46, they're almost an identical chassis, a little bit different widths and dimensions, but they're like parts go back and forth. I think that's sweet. You know, your normal 350Z is sweet. I mean, S550 Mustangs are pretty sweet.
I've heard that too. I've seen a lot of, what do you think about Corvettes? Seen a lot of C4, C5s out there in the game. What do you think?
I think it's sick.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm about it. I mean, it seems good. Wheelbase is good. I mean, they're a little bit pricey of an entry point, but it's like if you put side by side, like my C-Time car, my supercharged M54 E46, the money I have into that and the power it makes side by side to a Corvette, I am way more into that BMW for way less of a car than the Corvette.
That's a weird way to think about it. And people be spending $12,000 on a KA 240. You know what I'm saying?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm looking at you.
$12,000.
Yeah, how much did you spend again?
$8,000.
I thought he was gonna say higher. Like, I didn't say 12. I said 20.
I had a random DM from a guy that he's like, dude, love your content. Just want you to know, I'm getting into drifting because I saw what you guys are doing at US Air and it looks like a blast. And he's like, I picked up a 240, and I'm like, oh sweet man, where do you live? He's like, oh, I live in California. He's like, I'm just getting into it. I'm like, awesome, what'd you get? He's like, I got a KA 240. I'm like, how much? You gotta tell me how much. He's like,
oh no.
He's like, 12.5.
Oh my god.
I'm like, brother. Brother, Midwest people would say, oh, when you say like that level of price, I'm like, that's really exciting. I'm like, is it clean? You know, like nicely well done. He's like,
$12,000.
He's like, you know, it's fender's kind of crumpled up and needs some help, but it's a drift car, so it's got like a hydro and this and that. I'm like, good luck, bro. I'm so excited.
That excuse, everyone will they'll follow up everything they say. It's a drift car. It's like an excuse for things being like not.
Yeah, the buyer's remorse is real. That's why it's like I love, you know, in grip racing, they have those forums out there, especially on Facebook, where you see these cars, you know, they're like GTB cars, they're GT3, GT4, and they're $400,000 cars out of the box, and they're selling them for like $140. And you know when you look at the car that even at $140, you're like, this is like not $140,000 car. And they're like, yeah, it's on its fourth engine, it's this, it's that. But sometimes I feel like in grip racing, people will like bring down the price really heavily because the cars are just beat to shit.
Right, yeah.
In drift cars, I see it like almost the opposite way, where they're like, this car's ready to drift. It's a 240 KA, $22,000. It's like, what? No, that makes no sense.
Yeah. It's because it's like, oh, it's got all the cool Japanese parts in it, and it's really rare. So you know, they don't work, but it has it. Or it's like, you know, the knuckles are like completely like destroyed, but or you know whatever, but it has it. It's
What do you think? I mean, obviously, you've spent 3 years in FD. Obviously, the talk of the town is Formula Drift because it's like the largest drifting body in the United States. What's been like your biggest takeaway as you've been in it for 3 years?
To be honest, it's that cars and like all this stuff is honestly some of the smallest part of FD.
Yeah.
It's like the mental of everyone, all drivers and pro sponsors, I mean, staff, everything. It is like, it's a completely different game. Like I've drifted in a lot of different, or not even drifted, I've raced in different professional series, and everything is kind of like a roll with the punches. Like everything's really organized. Everyone kind of knows what to expect. And like running FD and like being around FD now for like 3 years it's like you really never know what's going to happen. You never know what to expect out of other drivers, out of anything else. Like you can get data from people and then they pull something out of their ass that's like amazing, and it's like just it's all over the place. Like there's so much inconsistency in Formula Drift that it makes it like even if you have everything planned down to a T, you're always just like looking over your shoulder, ready for anything.
I heard that I think Giles, you heard this too, probably like at its peak was at E-Town. Was it E-Town? No, it was where they changed the track Florida.
Oh yeah, Orlando,
yep. Where they changed the track like
three times.
Yeah, 3 times, like a day before. And then everybody was like, oh my God, what the hell am I supposed to do? There's no way my tires are going to last that long. Then they changed it again. Then they never told the public. And then Torque Motorsport put out their like video where they show the course. And everybody in the comments were like,
it's the wrong layout.
That's a wrong layout. And then FD came out later like, no, that's the layout. And everyone's like, what the fuck? And then they're like, actually just kidding. The day before they changed the whole thing. They repaved. I mean, that's got to be tough to plan because there's a lot
stressful.
Yeah, there's a lot more to drifting than, I mean, obviously you're going out there and sliding, but like your team is planning for the track layout, right? I mean, you guys are changing things based on what you know about the track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just happened in Utah as well. A little bit less to the public knowledge, but as drivers, we all drive a lot together. ProSpec guys, we drive on Assetto, we drive on sim. I mean, I probably put 20 to 30 hours a week in on the sim, like an incredible amount of time. And we were all running Utah, like we still had the inner clip.
Yeah.
And, And they didn't announce that it was switching to the outer zone until the week that we're leaving.
Oh my
God.
And
that change in the middle of the track completely changed the flow of everything. It changed gearing.
That's a huge
setup.
Yeah.
So like all of us just hopped on the sim with 12 hours before we're all leaving, just like running this new layout, trying to get like a feel for it and understand. Because, but yeah, the Orlando thing was crazy because I already knew tons of guys in pro who couldn't make 2 laps last on the original layout.
Yeah.
So when they expanded it in. Not to be super biased, but there's a lot of different tire brands in Pro 1.
Yep.
And there's a few of them that are not as good as the high level ones. And the tire wear is pretty poor.
Yeah.
So like I knew that those guys were going to be screwed if they went with that layout. So I'm glad that they changed it. But yeah, it is it is wild. I mean, even St. Louis. I mean, we had a lot of change this year. That whole wall getting pushed out.
Yep.
We didn't know what to expect until we saw it. Like we actually didn't know. We were Jeff Donati and I were running on the sim like the week leading up, and on St. Louis on the old layout they had the access road that they basically paved up to. Yep. So we were drifting through the grass through this concrete wall that was like a no clip zone just to try to get like a feel for the track. But again, it was gearing everything because St. Louis goes from like vehicle speed probably from like 80 miles an hour to like 20.
Yeah, that like last
it's really tight in there, yeah.
So it's just a crazy thing. And there is, like, we do put a lot of thought and effort into, like, what the car is going to do and set up before we go to the track.
It does seem like 2023, there were a lot of last-minute changes or just, like, adjustments in general. Do you think there's a reason for that? Was it because the cars are just, like, they're scaling in power or they're trying to make it more exciting? Like, what do you think the reason is for FD to make changes like that? Just to bring more excitement to the sport or what?
I think everything's changing a bit. I think FD as a whole didn't really have a lot of push to do a lot of stuff. One, because Pro 2 at the time was not excelling in a certain level.
Sure.
It was just like you had your 20 guys in Pro 1 running it, and that was it. There was nothing really pushing it forward. Then we had Drift Masters that has just been absolute crazy that everyone's comparing everything to.
Yeah.
And then ProSpec. I mean, when I started my first year at ProSpec, the competition was very weird. Like, there was maybe like 2 outshine guys, like not me, other people were like really good. And now like everyone's on a different level.
Sure.
So I feel like FD just had like a whole different wave of like, we need to do something. Like we need to make everyone feel like we're like trying to make some sort of forward progression in track layout or everything. Like the reason we didn't go back to Orlando is because there's no pit space, because we're like, there's just so many drivers now.
Yeah.
Every driver is capable of like doing really well, and I think FD realized that they had to do something to like keep progressing the sport, or else all these other waves of things were going to pass it by.
I do think the element of like the Drift Masters conversation, which is sensitive to some people, like the comparison all the time, and because we go with Torque Motorsport, and obviously we're close with FD, it's always like a weird conversation. But I always say with confidence that a little competition is good.
Yeah.
Like between bodies of motorsport too, because it drives innovation. It drives these people that sometimes they're the only ones that have kind of been on the block. Now there's a second one coming on, and that's not to say, next year the LZ World Tour is obviously making waves too, and I know Adam's testing stuff out in that space, and it's like, by all means, I want everybody to be successful, but it is nice to see that FD's like, okay, wait a minute, we got to do something here, because I have heard from other drivers in the past, particularly in the ProSpec space, where they're like, I would like a little more light, a little bit more limelight, maybe a little bit more focus on us so that we can continue to grow, because it's not just about the sport, but like, you guys got to get like marketing dollars and sponsorship dollars, and you got to convince tire companies to send you stuff, intake companies to send you. It's just wild the amount of work that goes.
A lot of you guys are just 1 or 2 man teams out there. Like it's just you and your buddies, like kind of trying to get her done, and you don't have 2 full trailers with a whole team and spare everything. So yeah, that's crazy. I remember it was like the first like ProSpec round that we went to, or the first event with the ProSpec round that we went to. And I remember we walked over into like the ProSpec pits. I looked at Alex. I'm like, "This is fun over here. This is a vibe over here."
I think it was E-Town where it was like we were walking around in the pro pits, and I'm like, everybody's very serious, and we just got off like a couple interviews with some people that were taking it like very polished, like just like a very polished approach. And I get it, like I've been in that space, but the whole point of FD is there is some style and charisma to all of it. There's personality. And we walked into the ProSpec space, and the very first thing I saw was like a dude yanking out a grill from his 240, and he's like pulling it out. Like another guy's grabbing a box of frozen burgers, and like dude's got a Corona. And they're like, "Hey, you want one?" And I'm like, "We'll be back, I promise." And it's like it is a whole different vibe.
There's music jamming over there. Like you said, there are people like pulling body panels out. They just have like a winch hooked up to the truck. They're just like cranking it down. It was awesome.
What do you think is like, as you look between ProSpec and Pro? I have heard from people that they say, if I could go into Pro, I probably wouldn't. I really like the ProSpec space. Are you aiming to get into Pro? Do you like being in ProSpec? Like, what are your goals as a driver in the sport?
I think as a driver, the goal is Pro, but the goal is to be ready for Pro.
Sure.
Like, the ProSpec itself has developed so much over the last couple of years where like the only goal of Pro 2 and ProSpec was to just like move past it, was to like jump past it because it didn't really get any limelight. It didn't get a lot of that. It was harder to get sponsors, and like Pro 1 was just the goal. ProSpec now has changed so much where like we do get a lot of limelight. We do get a lot of recognition. We're back to now we're on the driving cool tracks. There's no slouch. We're back at Atlanta. Like we get to do the cool stuff. So I feel like ProSpec is not a bad place to like be and grow and learn, especially since I would say what my dad always compares it to is Pro 1 like 4 years ago is what ProSpec is now.
Yeah.
So like the level of everything. So, and now Pro 1 is even higher. Like all the guys have gotten even better, the programs, everything. So I'm okay living in the ProSpec world right now, because it is a big like jump financially and support wise and everything. But yeah, when the dream is to put together a proper program to where Pro is possible, because I do think to get better, you have to, get pushed.
Yeah.
And I think ProSpec is pushing me a lot, but I feel like if I like finished in the ranking where I was eligible to move up and all that kind of stuff, that I would want to just take advantage of that.
Yeah, sure. That's wild. I always think to myself, it was like, it reminds me when I was at US Air, and the very first time I go out on the advanced course and you were behind me. It was the hardest I've ever driven. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know which way to go. I didn't know which way was up. We were doing the reverse, and I'm like, I swear to God, if I fuck this up, Cory's going to give me so much shit for the longest time. And you almost like need to be put in that position a little bit, right? Where it's like a comfortable level of just constant pressure to keep growing, which I think is wild. When you look at the E46 chassis, you being in ProSpec, there's a lot of eyes just in this whole space right now. A lot of them, I would argue, are like younger. Like they're watching the stuff on TikTok now. They're watching the edits. They're watching that, and they're getting really excited about it. What would be like one tip you'd give to some of these people that are maybe trying to jump into the sport, or maybe trying to jump into a car to learn how to drift and don't want to have a car that's on jack stands, 9 months out of the year?
Truthfully, it's the same thing that people have always been preaching is like jump into, like, let's say it's an E36 or an E46, get in the car, like put a seat coils in it, make sure everything works and it's not going to fall apart, and just drift it. Like that's it. I mean, not in if you can find a place in Mexico, do some donuts in a parking lot, go to there's so many drift events now. That's one big thing is when I started drifting, there was only US Air. There was only an event once a month. You had to register for the event within 5 minutes or else it was sold out and you didn't get to drift.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a crazy thing. Now you can go, like in Wisconsin, you can go down to GLD twice a week.
Yeah.
You can buy a season pass for like $150 and drift all season. And it's like a sick skid pad, freshly paved, literally purpose for like so people can drift. So like now I think the space to drift, like safe places to drift and people to like teach you is not hard to find. Now it's just about like jumping over that little bit of like pride or obsessiveness of like wanting to have like a cool car out the gate and like getting into something and just drifting it. I mean, there's even at US Air and GLD and like local places, you can like rent cars, like just 350Zs and stuff. I mean, I would definitely just slam and sim. If you want to bridge the gap, try to drift on a Seto.
Dude, I feel like that's like God's green gift to the Midwest car enthusiasts are sim rigs, because when it snows for 6 months out of the year and you're busy looking at sun that's only outside the window for 2 hours and you're like, this shit sucks. It's like, at least you can jump on a sim rig and slide around with your buddies. I think that's a blast.
We were talking a little bit beforehand too. We were talking about the sim rig and stuff too. You said that you kind of like measured everything like specifically to your E36. Like everything is like same location and stuff.
Yeah, I took like a cheap steel tube frame like sim rig off Marketplace, and then just kind of cut it up and welded like brackets everywhere. And so like my steering wheel, pedals, like the height of my seat, shifter and handbrake, everything is like within like a half an inch of where it is in my Pro car. Because I like to use VR, so everything just feels the same. Because drifting is muscle memory. I mean, like if I don't drift all winter and I just go into an event next spring, I'll feel like I won't be smooth in my hands, everything. It'll be all kind of wild. Like, so muscle memory is everything. I taught myself how to left foot brake on the sim, taught myself how to like foot brake transition. I mean, like all of these skills, like first time I had to do a huge entry in Utah, the biggest concern is the car dying.
Yeah.
Like when you throw it in and you have to basically hold handbrake or do something for like over 100 feet or whatever the distance is. Like if you're not drive by wire and you don't have it controlled to like keep revs up, like I have a cable, like the car will literally shut off. So like I had to basically get good at muscle memory of like throwing the car, clutch, and then like feathering the throttle and being able to like heel toe foot brake while on handbrake, and then being able to like keep it up in revs the whole time, especially since I'm in a 2J. So
yeah, that's a lot going on.
That's
a lot.
All right, so we're going to take a small break. When we get back into it, we're going to talk about the good old how the other motorsports that Cory may have been a part of. And then we're also just going to talk a little bit about what our goals are over the wintertime, which, by the way, if you guys are interested in picking up a set of tires, we do want to say that this podcast is sponsored by Continental Tire. God damn it, that's right. And if you're looking to buy winter tires, now's the time, because if you do it in like December, you're already fucked, all right? The good news is Continental Tire has a whole bunch of different tire lines, a whole bunch of really great stuff. DWS 06, the Extreme Contact Sport 02s, we tested those out. We've been going over to US Air, testing pretty much the entire lineup of Continental Tire, and all of them have been absolutely fantastic. Great mileage, great warranties, pretty much nothing bad to say about them at all. And if that's not enough to convince you, just a friendly reminder that Dakota has it tattooed on his body. So
That's true.
that is as much social proof as we can possibly give you. And if you're interested, we do have Continental Tire on MartiniWorks now, which is actually pretty cool. So with that said, we're going to take a small break. We'll be right back. So we are back. Cory, you mentioned that you were in other motorsport outside of drifting. Is that true?
Yeah. I've been racing since I was 4.
What the hell? What were you doing? You racing bicycles? Like what?
No bikes. I started in snowmobiles.
Nice.
So I raced snowmobiles for a while when I was young.
Big balls to race snowmobiles. That shit's dangerous, dude.
Yeah.
That shit's super dangerous.
When you were 4, was you like on the little kitty cat things, or like
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, we had the kitty cats, the 120s. But we did do some custom built sleds, like it was called the F1 class, and those went like 60. And we did like ice ovals.
Oh, nice.
So we did like a little bit of snowcross stuff, but mainly like the ice oval stuff.
Yeah.
Went from that into go-karts.
God damn it.
There it is.
So
When did you get into go-karts?
7 or 8.
Okay, so just a quick question. If a 29-year-old were to get into go-karts, is that considered weird?
No, you could do it. I mean, like you could literally run at Road America on the Briggs Motorplex, run shifter carts, all that kind of stuff.
See?
This guy has been talking about. He keeps bringing up go-karts more and more lately.
So it's because I talked to Michelin, and I was like talking to them, and I'm like, I really want to get better at driving. Like I want to go to driving schools, I want to go to racing schools, and I want to figure out like how to get into this more and more. And they're like, well, we're happy to help, but have you tried go-karts? And so I brought it up to my friend who's Lars, avid, he goes to RA all the time, and he like shit talked him. He's like, well, you're gonna get your ass beat by 5-year-olds. I'm like, I don't care. I feel like it's like an affordable, easy way to get into like racing almost, because they cost like $7 or $8 grand, right?
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. Like because I raced oval stuff. Like I raced a lot of oval dirt, and it was like tires were almost more expensive in go-karts than there was in drifting.
Really?
Because because prep was such a big thing. Like we prep tires, and it's a hit or miss. It's crazy. But we were running for a lot of money. Like my best year, I made it on a couple of like covers of like go-kart magazines and all this stuff. We won, I think when I was 11 years old, we won almost $87,000 in a year. just from prize pool of racing go-karts.
That's awesome.
So
you're saying I can beat up children and win money?
Well,
I'm in.
No, they're gonna beat you up.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna have a 5-year-old giving me the middle finger through turn 2.
You're gonna have 5-year-olds with $100,000 in their pocket giving you the middle finger as they pass you.
Yeah. No, there is different. Like there is. I think there is entry-level classes for different age groups still to this day. So because that's the one thing is road course go-karting is actually a lot more affordable and like easier to get into, I would say, than like oval stuff.
Sure.
And it's fun. And like I will tell you that a lot of my like driving thought process and like slowing everything down comes from that.
Really?
Because you have to like in a momentum based racing, you have to like always be thinking of like the next thing. You have to be thinking so far ahead. And it's just super fun.
Is that why like almost everyone that's in grip racing starts with karts? Is it because of that, or like is it just because it's the easiest to throw a 5-year-old into and not be like judged or put on a list?
Well, I would say that it is easy like to get into like entry, even if you don't like even experience racing, not even at a competitive level. I think it's easy to get into, but I would not look down at all on like getting into, and you have the frame for it too, because like
There you go.
Calling me childish figure?
I'm calling you slender.
Yeah.
You know,
Slender.
when you're running a cart, you know, and you have like weight restrictions and all this kinds of stuff, like giving, if I hopped into a cart, I wouldn't be able to adjust weight a lot to get set up. You know, you hop into a cart, you can like dial anything and you need.
I just really want to do it. It just seems like fun.
I think you have a blast with it.
I think so too.
I saw it too, because up here we're almost like how do you say, like we're blessed. We're 45 minutes away from US Air, which has karts, bikes, drifting, and autocross. Then you have Road America, which is like one of the prettiest full makeup on tracks you could possibly go to. Then at Road America, you have a go-kart track that is as big as other people's normal size tracks that you can drive. Then if you're like, well, I want to go in a straight line and drink beer, you can head on up to WIR, 25 minutes away. The fucker's open like 7 days a week, 365 days. Like you can do anything in this area.
They do run the shifter carts on the full Road America track too.
Do they really?
Like the full course. So
That's crazy.
You hit like scary speeds.
Imagine going through the kink with a go-kart and just being like, if I mess this up,
Just
my
absolutely
head's
pinned.
hitting the wall. Like I'm dead.
We did actually one of the coolest races I did. I raced when I think I was like 8 years old. We raced go-kart on the Milwaukee Mile, the full track.
Really?
And we had like, because we raced these big tracks, drafting was huge. So like, and it's sketchy when you're in the middle of like an 8-cart draft. Let's say you're like 3 cars back, your cart is weightless. Like completely weightless. Like we had some kid who like, you know, because you're bump drafting, you're really close, got tapped and his cart like turned sideways and just launched into a wall.
Oh my God.
But it's like, it's wild. Like when you're going that fast on something that weighs nothing with 8-year-olds in it. Like,
And that's that's a good thing. They just bounce off everything.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like in that scenario, like what kind of speeds are we talking about? Like how fast?
I don't know for sure, but we were probably, I feel like I want to say it was probably in like the 60 to 80 range.
And on something like that, small and compact, that's moving.
Well, we were talking to the one of the managers at US Air, Mike, who's been awesome this year. And he was talking about how, because I was talking about the kart racing, he's like, you really should do it. It's a blast. He goes, it is a little scary though, because like you'll be running a kart race, which has, let's say like, I don't know, 20 laps or something like that. And for 17 laps, nothing happens because everybody's in the same line. Everybody's just trying to draft off of everybody. So there's no like major excitement. But the last 3 laps are fucking wild because everyone's trying to like sneak in and like find those little mistakes, and you just see you'll see these like kids just just all over them, just shooting off. And I'm like, that's got to be fun to watch. Like I hope they're okay, but it would be fun to watch. It's kind of like a NASCAR accident, right? Where you're like, please be all right.
But also that was crazy.
That was wild. Did you see the car? You know, that's cool. Is there any sport that you want to get into that you haven't?
I want to race sprint cars.
Ooh.
Okay.
So that's like, it's going to happen. I don't really like, at some point in time in my life, I'm going to run like 410 sprints.
Oh, is that
That'd be fun.
so educate me. Why is that fun?
In my mind, one, again, we're in this blessed Midwest area where I could race like 5 nights a week if I wanted to. The other thing is it is a driver like skill-based thing. Like obviously car is super important, all this stuff, but it's just wild. Like it's one of those sports like, you go to a Splinger and you watch like a pavement late model oval race, and it's like cool, exciting. These guys are putting a lot into it, but still you don't maybe necessarily leave with like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You go to like Plymouth and just watch even like the 360 sprint guys. You watch the World of Outlaw guys. You watch them throw it into a corner at 90 miles an hour and just accelerate and pull a wheelie all the way down the straightaway. Like you're like, wow.
You and Dustin Korth would just get along so well. He loves that shit so much. Yeah. That's so cool. If you like, let's say you had to pick, you have to, right? Mm-hmm. You have to pick a Midwest company to be your sponsor. This is important. For those that aren't listening, Midwest is owned by like 5 companies in total. One being Menards, big. Fleet Farm, or Farm and Fleet, depending on which way you swing.
Bro, Quick Trip.
Quick Trip?
There it is.
Cory Talaska's running around with a white and red sprint car, Quick Trip. Talking about Glazers on like when he wins the podium. I just want to thank, I had a really great breakfast this morning. You can get Glazers, 6 of them, $2.99.
Karuba coffee.
Hey, don't forget your rewards card, okay? Yeah. We'll see you next time.
You're at the Quick Trip and they have like the little toy trucks and they always have the banana semi.
Yeah.
I just want to wrap my taller, like full Quick Trip banana, and then...
I don't know what it is with Midwest people, especially Midwest car people, because we were coming back from Chicago yesterday, and at no particular point did Gels ever touch the maps to figure out where a gas station was. He just sniffed out the Quick Trip.
I did. I just like pulled off, and Alex like looked up. He's like, "Oh, Quick Trip, nice." I was like, "Yeah, I just knew where it is." You just kind of feel where they're at.
It's like a little tingly feeling in your hips. You're like, it's nearby.
Yeah,
it's
like
close.
Start to take the exit. I can't stop it.
It's just pulling. I don't know. If you know, like if there's an off ramp and immediately an on ramp, there's a Quick Trip within a like half-mile radius.
I just love Quick Trip. I've never had a poor experience at Quick. Like I go into Buc-ee's, right?
Mm-hmm. It was neat. I love Buc-ee's.
It's neat, very cool, scary. Lots to take in.
Is it the character? Does he scare you?
Okay, so the character is a little odd, but like, I don't need that much space. What's the other one? It's got like 1 billion. Is that Buc-ee's that has like the billion? Yeah. Too much. I
thought it was awesome.
Well, it is cool. I'm nervous. Like, I don't know. Am I supposed to keep my car at the pump because there's 9,000 of them? Is that okay to do?
I don't know. I just don't. My first experience at Buc-ee's, we were coming back from Tennessee. And we hit it at like the most beautiful sunrise that I've ever seen in my life. And just coming up over like the 150 gas pumps that were like out front. And like we were just, Dakota was with, and then Maggie and then Maya. We were just like kind of sitting there like, this is wild.
Wow.
Just this beautiful sunrise and then this giant
Flying J
statue. Flying J. Oh, we're going to get into the truck stops now?
So
you like Flying J? I like Pilot more than Flying J.
I can only, when I travel for FD with like the rig, because we have like the stacker, everything, I can only stop at truck stops. So like I can only eat at Denny's.
Okay.
I can only stop at a Flying J or a Pilot. Well, we can stop at other ones, but like they're just nicer, Yeah. I've seen the inside of way too many of those truck stops.
Dude, when Gels and I went down to St. Louis with the GR86 to do content. And we were heading down Illinois, the most boring goddamn state right next to Texas once you get past
when you're heading
Chicago.
down the west side of Illinois,
there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
The state doesn't even need to exist. Like we get past the exciting stuff and there's nothing. Finally, I'm like, dude, I'm hungry. Like we're getting hungry. And we're like, oh, there's a off ramp and it says, restaurants and stuff like that. So we take the off ramp and we're driving for like 5 minutes. Nothing. There's nothing. And we're like driving another 5 minutes. We're like, where the fuck is this fast food place? Yeah. And you want to know what's there? In the middle of this town that looks like it got stuck in 1974 is a Subway in like a 10 by 20, like almost looks like an apartment rental.
It's the only fast food-esque restaurant in the town.
Yeah.
Outside of like, Mom and Pop's Bar and Grill that opens at 11.
Yeah. Closes at 1:30 once they're done. And like, so we go eat there. I'm like, all right, whatever. We get back on the road. Then we go down. We go to eat again. Nothing's available except Subway. Another Subway stop. So we have Subway a second time. Then we get to St. Louis and we're doing St. Louis stuff and we go across the street to get food. And what's there? Taco Bell And
Or Subway.
fucking Subway. Dude, I must have had Subway like 7 times. I'm like, I have a beef with Subway now. It's just so bad.
I couldn't do it anymore. I remember standing in the line at the Taco Bell that was like right next to it, looking at Alex. I'm like, you have the choice. We just had this like 3 times in a row. You can come over here. He's like, I can't do it.
I can't do Taco Bell, dude. I can't do.
You talking about the gas station across from the track?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a Flying J, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember because I could sit there and like you'd have Mike Power would just walk in, and then 27 videographers would walk in, and then we ran into James Dean. Every single time I've ran into him, not at the track, it's been at a goddamn Subway.
It has.
It's ridiculous. Yep. It's not even funny anymore. So now it's like anytime I walk into a Subway casually, I'm like looking for like a 7'9" big dude. I'm like, is he around here? No? Okay, we can keep going.
You know, it's funny you say that. When we went to I think it might have been Utah. I ran into Osbo at a Panera, and he was not in character.
I've heard
What
this.
do you mean?
I've heard this.
And it was so weird to me because we like walked in and he's sitting there. He's he's got his mac and cheese sandwich, whatever. Yeah. He's reading a book. I didn't look what book it is. He's reading a book. Oh, man. He's got he looked like he just left like an alt rock punk show in like 2010.
I've heard this.
Like, skinny like textured jeans,
Okay.
like high top like Nikes like with the big like tongue on it and everything. Yeah. It like like the whole European like size small shirt,
Yes.
like really tight. And I was like, this is him. This is the real him.
Yeah.
Unshaven.
Damn.
I see him the next day, and I'm like, this is not the same person.
I've heard this so many times that
Just letting loose in a Panera bread.
The moment the rock star suit comes off, the European Frederick Osbo like steps out with the tight shiny shirt and like the tight pants and the beard. Like he's almost unrecognizable is what I've heard. Like when he's just like hanging around because he can grow a goddamn beard too.
Crazy.
I can too. I just try to.
Yeah, right.
Keep it away.
Yeah. We
All right.
keep that tamed.
So help me understand. One last question about FD, then we'll jump into something else. It astonished me at Irwindale when Matt Field decided to punt James Dean into the corner. Bless Matt Field's soul. The guy's just as controversial on the internet as he seems to be when he's talking about stuff like this. But like RTR put that car back together. It looked like a crumpled Coke can. I watched the video multiple times and I'm like,
I can pieces
see
like fell off of that car.
Yeah, I can see like the chassis just like all these pieces bending and I'm like, that's not plastic, that's metal, that's gonna be hard to do. Yeah. They got the car back together and he kept going. Is that like when you look at that, obviously that's astonishing, that's a huge accomplishment by RTR, but that is a fuck ton of money to have like on deck to fix a car versus some other people in pro, like their transmission goes out, they may have one backup, but if they don't have a backup, they're like done. Do you see that gap in like the capital of these teams being an issue in the motorsport, or is that just like a nut up and shut up and just keep kind of driving until you figure it out?
I don't know if it's an issue because in my mind, I have to look at it a different direction. Is like, I look at it as like, okay, there's money in FD. Like there's people are putting money into it. So I look at it in a positive direction. Yes, of course, like it's kind of hard not to be like, yeah, it must be nice. But like, it's definitely, I think it's sweet still on a general scale. I mean, RTR is crazy. They literally I've watched them change a rear end in Vaughn's car in like 4 minutes in a 5-minute timeout. Yeah. I've watched them change an engine in Chelsea's car between top 32 and top 16. I mean, like, it's wild. And I think what it does, that style of things, is it pushes all of us to build better cars.
Yeah.
Like when I make bash bars, I make 3 of each. When I do my whole front end, I'll actually put a whole spare front end in, set it up and take it back out as spares. Like I think all of that just pushes everything forward. And I think it is good, even though, yes, like the gap is huge between like my team and like an RTR or Matt Field's Heatwave team and everything like that. But like, I think it's good. I mean, I think it's going in the right direction because eventually there's going to be big companies or smaller companies that are seeing what other companies are doing. Like everyone follows suit. Yeah. There's not a lot of originality in like marketing and all these deciding factors anymore. They're like, all right, what is my competition putting money into, you know?
And I do, to be fair too, I've seen sometimes like on the other side too, because I don't just want to talk about how it's a money thing, but like I watched like Odie and those guys too. Like they put out some really impressive performance this season where like their drivers were on podium loads the whole season. And it's like, I asked kind of them the same question where it's like, well, how are you guys doing it? And they're like, we just we prioritize making sure our cars don't blow up. Because if the car can stay in one piece, the drivers will do what they need to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yep. It just seems like RTR had a bad string of luck. The fucking cars just kept blowing up, going sideways. Chelsea drives his car super aggressively, you know, and James Dean just had some weird luck with some accidents. But.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. We were when we were in Orlando, we were hanging out with Chris Forsberg at his tent, and then the Chelsea spot was like pretty much right next to it. And I remember he had that wreck at Orlando too, and like they came pushing that car, and they had like 30 people on it. Like, that thing was messed up. Like
they come out of nowhere.
I know. I was like, where the hell did all the someone came running from like the swamp with like a spare fender? I'm like, where the fuck did you come from?
The NPCs loading for the new round. It's like you're playing against the Flood in Halo. It's like, what the hell? It was wild to me because I saw that, and people, they come out of nowhere. They fix the car, and then they disappear. And like the only person that's like left is what's his name? Ray. Smoking a cigarette. He's got like the one can on. He's got like the one can on, and he's just sitting back there. And I go up to talk to him because I've talked to him a few times. Really awesome dude to chat with. And they will put together an entire car in 4 minutes. You know, the most sophisticated thing. You couldn't pay me to do that. And then somebody else will come in and be like, "Hey, do you know where the visor, the new visor is for Adam? He can't. It's dark, and so he can't see." And Ray just like managed to rebuild an entire car, and he looks at it, he's like, "It's in the truck, passenger seat. You can just go get it." It's like, oh my God. Like the most advanced shit, and then still having to deal with like, "Hey, do you know where that 10 mil is? I can't find it.
I set this somewhere. I think someone moved it on me. Did you do that?
That's just Formula Drift is such a wild sport.
I love it.
Do you think you're gonna ever find time to maybe jump into other like racing bodies for drifting at all? I mean, Drift Masters is obviously a big one that I've seen a lot of people talk about, but there's some other ones in the United States too, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a big push that I've actually made even just like this year in fall is like working with, because obviously I can only run one tire in ProSpec. Like we are GT radial locked in.
Yep.
And we are like, I love the tire, it's good, but like it doesn't allow for kind of that avenue of expansion to run other stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, I've been working on some stuff that'll hopefully allow me to run different events like outside of, FD's like for me, it's only 4 rounds. It's 4 rounds that cost $50,000 but more, but it's 4 rounds, So yeah, I want to do a lot. I drifted this year probably more than I ever have. I probably did, I did the 4 rounds and then probably like 10 to 12 events outside of it. Nice. So that's kind of like the goal again. But I'd like some of those events outside of FD to be like comps, be shootouts, be something else, and kind of see where it grows. I think we're going to start to see maybe some crossover of like, even more foreign drivers coming here. Maybe it opens the door for us to go over there, maybe rent a car, kind of world. So, I mean, money changes everything. So it's kind of that world.
That's so wild, especially with like, again, I watch like the LZ World Tour, right? Because they have their thing, and they were just in Australia where Torque Motorsport is.
Yeah.
And like Adam and Jimmy Oaks and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is the car we're gonna be driving this weekend. Thanks Keep It Reet for giving me a 600 horsepower S14. I got a 3-rotor RX-7. Like it's like, what the hell? Where did you get these cars? How are you able to do that? And it's like, well, you can, as you start to build those connections and stuff, which is absolutely wild. So we're gonna take a small break, and when we come back, we're gonna be talking a little bit about breaking news. And maybe whatever else the hell we want. All right, we are back. We're gonna be talking about breaking news.
Let's go.
We've got good old Cory Talaska here, so we're gonna jump right in. First question was from Giant Kebab. He said, "What modern cars have massive gains with a tune?" What do you guys think?
GTIs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because they just under
the only
power their cars for liability.
That and then the only downfall really is the clutch, because then like you get over like 300 and they just start slipping like crazy. But yeah, like just bolt-ons and a tune, you can go crazy with it.
Yo, trucks.
Dude,
like modern trucks with like a tune. I mean, they get like, you can get a couple 100 foot-pounds of torque out of like a bully dog tuner.
Yeah.
I remember before even like, obviously there's a lot of EPA conversations, but like back in Eau Claire when I was like 16, I remember one of the guys in the scene got a diesel truck and he put a tune on it. And I remember him saying he went like up to 1,200 foot-pounds of torque. And that like number just didn't I couldn't.
You're lying to me.
I couldn't comprehend the torque number because I didn't understand how trucks worked. I was like, what do you
mean?
Like, how much horsepower do you have? He's like 400. I'm like, what? How? It doesn't make any sense. Somebody in here goes, obviously, I think the B58 is a super solid one where it's like you talk to any BMW owner these days and like, what mods you got? And they're like, downpipe and a tune. And you ask the next guy, he's like, I'm thinking about modding my car. Downpipes and a tune. Yeah. And the other guy's like, I'm saving up. Downpipes and a tune.
300 horsepower.
Yeah, literally ridiculous.
Yeah, you switch it to E85 and it's just a monster. Yeah.
So Promit says McLarens also gain enormous amounts of power. Apparently on a 720S, a tune can claim up to a 240 horsepower increase.
That's ridiculous.
Until you bend a rod, but that's kind of why they're so popular in the supercar space. Another one I actually didn't even think about, a horrible drummer. You gotta hype yourself up, my man. The RS3. The Audi RS3.
I haven't had much experience or know much about those, to be completely honest.
They're like these little 5 cylinders. And I remember when RS3 did come out, they like disappeared for some reason. I still obviously see one or two on social media, but like when the RS3 came out, it was kind of how the B58 is being received now.
Sure.
But for the RS3, it was just like a surge and it disappeared because they're like these mini Ferrari engines that like with a little tune, downpipe, you can make wicked power.
So they're 5-cylinder?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And they sound insane.
I was going to say, it's got to have a unique sound.
They sound so good, which is the same thing as like the Audi TTRS.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen the TTR. They're such good looking cars.
Yeah. They, from the early 2000s to now, they've come a long way.
Yeah.
They have come a long way.
First,
I don't fit well in those vehicles.
I would pay to see you in a Mazda Miata, an S2000, and a first gen Audi TT without the wing.
It's like Shaq in a Civic.
Dude, that's absolutely hilarious. Somebody talked about the new WRX, but we're not gonna talk about it. Yeah, he said my RS3 made 600 horsepower on an intake dune downpipe and a turbo inlet. With his E85 and a hybrid turbo, his goal is 800 wheel horsepower.
And that's just on like stock internals and everything. That's insane.
That's
what the hell?
Don't tell the dealership.
Yeah, don't. I don't know why it blew up.
This is a good one for you specifically because you put that you're a professional race car driver on everything. How hard do you drive when you're test driving your car?
Full. You got to go out.
Just full out.
You got to send it because it's bitten me in the ass.
Really?
Because I went to test and I've like been nervous. Like, oh, we don't have a lot of time after testing before the event. Mm-hmm. So I'll like kind of baby it, feel good. Oh, we're good. And then we go to the event and something's not right. And it's something that we would have found.
Cory ate gels. But Cory, where can people find you?
They can find me at Cory Talaska on everything. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Twitch.
Tumblr.
OnlyFans.
MySpace.
Reddit.
Feet Finder.
Ooh. If you guys want to see more about Cory or some of his exterior bits, you guys can go check him out in the description link below. Cory, thank you so much for hanging out. And if you guys are looking to build your car, Mod Your Car MartiniWorks, we appreciate it so much. Drop a comment below if you want us to bring other people like Cory back onto the podcast to talk about drifting, motorsports, or just random car shit because it's super enjoyable and we love having you. So thank you so much for watching, Cory.
Thank you.
Enjoy the evening,
I will.
afternoon. I'm going to go have some ramen.